going on, people? This is Rob for the Corner Store Podcast. Subscribe, like, comment, and share the content. Now that the dust has settled, I'm kind of ready to give my take on the Kwame Brown saga and kind of give my theory on why his career kind of was doomed from day one when he got drafted in June of 2001 by the Washington Wizards. And now Michael came out of retirement in September of '01 when he resigned as GM in order to play as an active player for the Washington Wizards. So I wasn't sure if they decided that they wanted to trade Kwame Brown on draft day or once Michael ended up coming onto the team in September, because Michael wanted more of a veteran team to make the playoffs, and he felt that he couldn't win with a 17-year-old out of high school. Now, as far as him being set up to fail, like typically when teams that have the number one pick, all transactions that they make is supposed to be geared for the benefit of their asset, that number one pick. I mean, the only outlier that I could think of off the top of my head is the 82 Lakers when they had the number one pick when they drafted James Worthy out of North Carolina. Now, James, he was more of a proven player. He won the NCAA tournament in 82 with Sam Perkins and Michael Jordan being coached by Dean Smith. And to come on to the Lakers with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he wasn't going to be asked to be the focal point of the offense. I mean, they had two Hall of Famers already winning championships. Now with Magic, he was more of a positive reinforcement leader. I mean, he'll put his arm around your shoulder, give you that positive pep talk. But however, with Michael Jordan, totally opposite. He's gonna ridicule you. He's gonna play mind games with you. I mean, he's going to do scorched earth just to kind of break you down and try to build you back up. And I don't think a 17-year would have been able to take that physical abuse from literally the most famous person on planet Earth. So I'm sure Michael was probably one of his number one fans. He's 17 years old, and when Michael won his last championship, Kwame was probably 13 or 14 years old at the time. So I'm sure he knew of the man, the myth, the legend of Michael Jordan when he last played with the Bulls when he won the six championships. So just for him to play alongside with Michael Jordan, I'm sure that was a dream come true. I'm sure any man back then would have wanted to do that. But it's one thing to like be in awe of your heroes, but to kind of like be colleagues with them, I'm sure it was a totally different story in Kwame's eyes. So day in and day out, doing practice, doing the games, you're getting ridden by Michael Jordan, and also Doug Collins. He was just as much of an asshole as Michael Jordan. I don't think he was the best X's and O's type of coach. I mean, he's only regarded as an okay coach just because of him coaching Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan was throwing up Russell Westbrook type of numbers. Back in '88 when Michael had his best year as a pro when he won MVP, All Star MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he was just on fire on all cylinders during that '88 season, and Doug Collins was the coach during that time. So that's why Doug is probably regarded as a respectable coach per se, because he has the blessing of Michael Jordan, and also Doug Collins in his own right was also number one pick back in the, I want to say, I think it was the '60s or the '70s. But yeah, he was also a number one pick as well. So anyway, as far as Michael being the most famous person on planet Earth, I mean, I would argue that, but I'm not sure how you can measure that to scale. I mean, no matter what room that Michael walks into, I believe he literally owns the room. Force field and oxygen is pretty much being sucked out of the room because of the presence of Michael Jordan. Just to give actually two personal examples. One, I was browsing through Netflix with my daughter. She was 3 at the time, and we was looking at some movies to watch, and we came across the Space Jam artwork, and I kind of asked her, it's like, "Oh, hey, so who's that on the picture?" And she said Bugs Bunny. So like, I was like, "Okay." So I asked her who was the other one, and she said that's Michael. So I was kind of shocked and taken aback because obviously she doesn't know the the legend of the Michael Jordan brand of basketball, but she actually knows on a micro level on the actual Michael Jordan brand because of his look, dark skin, bald head. I mean, she kind of knows that on a micro level, which was kind of fascinating for a 3 year old. And also, it was this one random like Friday night in January of 2004. I mean, this was literally months removed from Michael retiring from the Wizards, and I was in Club Ice House, and he walked into the club with Charles Oakley, Richard Dent, and I mean, if you were only there, I'm not sure if anybody who's listening to this ever been in the same room with Michael Jordan, just to even share the same space with Michael Jordan. I mean, it is a surreal experience because like literally like every single person is pretty much glued and like in shock and awe of the presence of Michael Jordan. I mean, he literally sucked the oxygen out of the room. I mean, good luck for any guy to try to talk to a chick as long as Michael Jordan was in the same club at the same time. So it was just amazing. But even during that time, ironically, I was 23 years old when I shared that same small space with Michael Jordan when he literally walked right past me, and yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, as far as also him being the most famous person on planet Earth, I could argue that he's more famous than the Pope. He's more famous than any mainstream soccer player from Europe. I mean, he's more famous than obviously Beyonce and Jay-Z. I mean, I can't name any other person who was more famous than Michael Jordan. So, as far as to have all that pressure on Kwame Brown to be playing next to this man at 17 years old, and he's gonna be, playing these mind games and call you out your name and just riding you like the whole time, doing practice and doing the games. I mean, not many people can really stand to that pressure. And I mean, unfortunately for him, his career never really took off because when teams draft the number one pick, all of their transactions following drafted that number one pick is supposed to be to build around that number one pick. But unfortunately, Michael Jordan, since he was on the team, all transactions were geared for a Michael Jordan type of offense. So, he didn't get the minutes. He was mostly riding the bench because Michael wanted to play alongside veterans. Back in 2001, they got Ty Lue and Christian Laettner. Then 2002, they got Jerry Stackhouse because he was kind of swapped for Rip Hamilton. And then Rip, he was a younger player at the time, when he did play with Michael in 2001. But in '02, it was a trade between the Pistons and the Wizards. So yeah, Stackhouse and Hamilton kind of swapped out. Then they also got Brian Russell, Larry Hughes, and Charles Oakley, which was Michael's best friend and enforcer. So yeah, Charles Oakley, yeah, he definitely had his reputation of being this tough guy, enforcer, someone like a Kendrick Perkins or a Ron Artest. So, and he was definitely Michael's protector, and obviously Michael probably gave the green light for them to get someone like Charles Oakley because he was also just as much of an older player as Michael Jordan. But yeah, the team was not set up to like cater to a Kwame Brown. I mean, it was just a team full of veterans and this 17-year-old. So it definitely it wasn't a recipe for success on Kwame's part. And in both years, they didn't make the playoffs. They just kind of mishandled the whole situation. I mean, obviously, if Michael Jordan wants to come out of retirement and play for your team, yeah, of course, I'll have him play on my team any day. And because at the end of the day, Michael was still box office back then. Every stadium that they went to, I mean, it was standing room only. It was a sellout crowd. I'm sure if y'all heard about the story with Chameleon, the rapper. He was mainstream about 15 years ago, in which I believe he told a story about how he was at a party in which Michael was there, and he went up to him asking for a picture, and Michael told him flat out he don't take pictures with niggas. He was like being an asshole about it, and he kind of embarrassed him in front of other high profile music artists and athletes and women, And just to have like the most famous, greatest basketball player of all time tell you that in front of everybody, that was, I'm sure that was a very embarrassing experience or community part. And he also said how it was like weeks later, Michael sent him like some Jordan gear just to kind of apologize for the incident because Michael probably didn't know who he was. But out of the case, I mean, still Michael screamed at him and told him he'll take pictures with Nick because he was just being a real dick about it. But anyway, you know, also there was a time which I attended like a Bulls and Lakers game back in 2005, which they retired Scotty's number at halftime, and Mike was there, and Dennis and Tony and like former Bulls players. They had went out at halftime where they did a ceremony to raise Pippen's jersey in the rafters. So yeah, I mean, even during that time, even though it was Scotty's ceremony, everybody wanted to hear from Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael owned the room that day. I remember there was a time in which Obama gave Michael the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Even during that time, you're in the White House with like a whole bunch of powerful people, also alongside the president. I would say that even during that moment, Michael owned the room, and Michael shared the same room with a Jay Z or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. I believe in a room with all of those men, Michael was still on the room. And there was a time in which Bob Johnson invited Michael to a BET Awards. I believe it was the same award show in which Destiny's Child gave a lap dance to Magic Johnson, Nelly, and I believe it was Terrence Howard. And I mean, several times throughout the whole broadcast, the camera kept panning to what Michael Jordan like facial expression was. So, even during that time and that award show, I would argue that Michael still owned the room. At Kobe's memorial in February of last year, when Shaq went up and spoke, Gino Ariema went up to speak. Um, that college basketball player went and spoke. I believe she was from Oregon. Her name is Sarah something. I forgot her last name, but even when Michael went up to spoke, I believe he spoke last. Even in Staples Center for the remembrance of Kobe Bryant, Michael, he still owned the room. So y'all can understand why Kwame wasn't ready at 17-year old to have the mental capacity to to feel the brunt of a Michael Jordan style of leadership because he didn't have Michael's back and he definitely didn't have his coaches back in Doug Collins and everybody on the team, if they were to pick sides, Kwame or Michael Jordan, I'm sure most of those guys would have picked Michael Jordan. I mean, if I was on the team, I'll pick Michael Jordan. So I mean, Kwame, he's number one pick, and just like Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant, I mean, there were success stories in the NBA with players out of high school and they end up being all stars and all time great players. So I'm not saying that the onus was on the. I'm not saying that the onus was on the organization and Michael Jordan and the head coach. Still, the players themselves still got to put in the effort and have the and had a mental fortitude to like get through whatever adversity that they have to get through in order to make themselves the best version of a basketball player they can be. But finally, I'll say this: as far as my theories why his career didn't take off like it should have, it's all because of the whole aura of Michael Jordan. He is the most famous person on the planet. He's the most influential athlete as far as during that time. Even once he retired and came back to the Wizards, I mean, he was still box office. And I can understand why a 17-year-old would have been ready for that. And I'm not gonna put the onus solely on the organization, solely on Michael Jordan. I mean, still the players still got to put their best foot forward in order to be the best version of basketball player that they can be. We already got examples of Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett, Sean Kemp, players that came out of high school and end up being great Hall of Fame type of players. So it goes on both sides. But as far as a 17-year-old out of high school in which the organization was supposed to to draw all of their transactional resources to accommodate their number one pick that was supposed to have given Kwame Brown like the best fair shot in order to succeed. But plans changed. Michael Jordan being on the team kind of derailed those plans. So that's my 2 cents as far as why Kwame Brown never really panned out because of the whole aura of the most famous person on the planet, the greatest basketball player on the planet, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan. So there you have it. Y'all. Thanks. Peace.